"You're so controlling," my lazy girlfriend yelled when I asked her to clean. After months of doing everything alone, I got a paying roommate and changed the locks. The apartment door slammed shut behind Aubrey, and I just stood there looking at the disaster zone that used to be our living room. Pizza boxes stacked 3 high on the coffee table, empty wine bottles scattered across the kitchen counter, and somehow there were chips ground into the carpet. This was what I came home to after working a 12-hour day debugging code. "I'm not a maid, Jason." That's what she screamed at me when I asked if she could maybe help clean up after her friends trashed our place. Not even asked, more like gently suggested. But apparently that was too much to ask from someone who works 25 hours a week at a boutique while I'm pulling 50-hour weeks just to keep us afloat. I heard the bedroom door slam next, and I knew she was done with this conversation. Done with me. Done with any responsibility whatsoever. She'd probably sleep until noon while I spent my Saturday morning scraping dried cheese off our plates and trying to figure out how red wine ended up on the bathroom mirror. This wasn't the first time. Hell, it wasn't even the worst time. But something about the way she said it, like I was some kind of servant asking for too much, hit me different. I've been doing all the grocery shopping, all the cooking, all the cleaning for months now. When did I become the live-in maid? I picked up one of the pizza boxes and felt this wave of exhaustion wash over me. Not just tired from work, but tired from this. Tired from feeling like I'm the only adult in this relationship. Tired from coming home to chaos and being told I'm unreasonable for wanting a clean place to live. The worst part? I could hear her Netflix starting up in the bedroom. Not even a hint of guilt or acknowledgement that maybe, just maybe, she could help out. Just straight back to bed like nothing happened. I stood there holding that greasy pizza box, and for the first time in months, I had this crystal clear thought. This isn't normal. This isn't how people who love each other treat each other. I shouldn't have to beg my girlfriend to help maintain the apartment we both live in. Last night was supposed to be different. I'd worked late again, came home around 9, and found 6 of her friends here with takeout containers everywhere. Music blasting, someone's heels had left scuff marks on my coffee table, and they'd somehow managed to spill something sticky all over the kitchen floor. When I walked in, tired as hell, Aubrey barely looked up from her wine glass. "Hey babe, we're just hanging out," she said, like the state of our apartment was completely normal. Like I hadn't specifically asked her last week to maybe give me a heads up before having people over. Like I hadn't been working since 7 that morning while she'd been off at noon. I tried to be cool about it. Made small talk with her friends, cleaned up what I could around them, went to bed early because I had to be up at 6. But when I woke up this morning and saw the full extent of the damage, something snapped. The living room looked like a tornado hit it. There were wine stains on the couch, food crumbs everywhere, and someone had left a wet towel on my laptop. That's when I made the mistake of asking for help. Not demanding, not yelling, just asking if she could pitch in with the cleanup since it was her friends who made the mess. And that's when she exploded. "I work too, you know," she screamed. "I'm tired too, I'm not your personal cleaning service." But here's the thing, she works 3 days a week. 3. And when she's home, she's usually watching TV or shopping online or hanging out with friends. Meanwhile, I'm debugging software for 10 hours a day, coming home to cook dinner, do laundry, pay bills, and now apparently clean up after parties I wasn't even invited to participate in. Something shifted in my chest. Not anger exactly, but something colder, more determined. I was done being the guy who cleans up everyone else's mess while getting yelled at for asking for basic respect. The Netflix sounds from the bedroom faded into background noise as I started picking up the mess, and that's when it really hit me. This had become my normal. 8 months ago, when Aubrey first started staying over regularly, she'd actually help out. She'd do dishes while I cooked, or we'd tackle laundry together on Sundays. It felt like we were building something together, but somewhere along the way, that cooperation just disappeared. It happened so gradually I didn't even notice at first. She'd skip doing dishes one night because she was too tired from work. Then she'd leave her laundry in the machine for days because she forgot. Pretty soon, I was doing everything just to avoid the constant excuses and arguments. I remember the exact moment I should have seen this coming. It was about 4 months ago, and I'd just finished a brutal week, 3 back-to-back client presentations, and a system crash that had me working until midnight every night. I came home Friday exhausted, hoping to just order pizza and crash on the couch with her. Instead, I found a sink full of dirty dishes that had been sitting there for 3 days. "Aubrey, could you maybe do these tonight? I'm completely wiped out," I'd asked. She looked up from her phone with this wounded expression. "Jason, I worked 5 hours today. I'm exhausted. Can't you just do them tomorrow?" 5 hours. I'd worked 55 hours that week, and she was too tired from 5 hours at a boutique to wash some plates. But somehow, I ended up apologizing and doing them myself while she ordered Thai food and picked a movie. That became the pattern. Every request for help turned into a negotiation where I'd end up feeling guilty for asking. She'd remind me that she worked too, that she was stressed too, that I was being unreasonable. Somehow, her part-time job became equivalent to my full-time career in these conversations. The manipulation was subtle but consistent. If I asked her to pick up groceries, she'd agree but then forget until I did it myself. If I suggested we meal prep together, she'd start but then get distracted by her phone and leave me to finish. If I mentioned that the bathroom needed cleaning, she'd say she'd do it later until I couldn't stand the mess anymore. And the excuses got more creative over time. She was too tired, she had a headache. She wasn't good at cleaning anyway, so I should just do it. She'd do it wrong and I'd just redo it, so what was the point? The boutique was really stressful this week. Her period was coming. Her period just ended. She was stressed about her sister's wedding. She was stressed about money, even though I paid for everything. I started keeping a mental catalog of our conversations, and the pattern became impossible to ignore. Every discussion about household responsibilities ended with me doing the work and her finding a way to make me feel bad for bringing it up. I was being controlling or nitpicky or treating her like a child. The worst part was how she'd flip the script. If I cleaned the bathroom, she'd thank me but then mention how she would have done it differently. If I did laundry, she'd point out that I'd shrunk her sweater last month, so maybe I shouldn't touch her clothes. If I cooked dinner, she'd eat it but then suggest improvements or mention how her mom made it better. I was being trained. That's what I realized standing there with that pizza box. Like a dog getting treats for good behavior, I was being conditioned to do everything myself to avoid conflict. And when I did everything perfectly, my reward was more work and subtle criticism. 3 months ago, I'd tried to have a serious conversation about it. Sat her down, explained how overwhelmed I was feeling, asked if we could create a chore schedule or something. She'd listened, nodded, even agreed that things were unbalanced. We made a list together. She'd handle dishes and bathroom cleaning. I'd do laundry and cooking. It lasted exactly 4 days. By the end of the week, I was doing dishes again because she'd left them soaking for 2 days. The bathroom stayed dirty until I couldn't stand it anymore. When I brought it up, she got defensive. "I'm trying, Jason. This is just how I am. I'm not as organized as you. Maybe you should just accept that we're different." Different, like being a responsible adult versus being completely selfish, was just a personality difference we needed to work around. The sound of her laughing at something on Netflix drifted through the door, and I felt this cold clarity wash over me. She wasn't going to change. This wasn't about being tired or stressed or different. This was about her believing that her comfort was more important than my sanity, and that I would always be there to clean up her messes. I'd been so focused on making the relationship work that I'd forgot to ask if it was actually working for me. But now, standing in this disaster zone at 8 in the morning, I knew exactly what I needed to do. I just had to be smart about it. First thing Monday morning, I called Derek. We'd been friends since college, and he'd been looking for a place ever since his lease ended last month. He was staying with his parents temporarily, which was driving him nuts at 29. "Dude, are you serious?" he said when I brought up the roommate idea. "I thought you and Aubrey were practically married." "Yeah, well, things change. You interested in the spare room or not?" Derek had always been the responsible one in our friend group. He paid his bills on time, cleaned up after himself, and actually contributed to household expenses. Everything Aubrey wasn't doing. The spare room had been sitting empty for months anyway, just collecting Aubrey's shopping bags and clothes she never wore. "What's the rent situation?" he asked. "Split utilities 3 ways, you pay 1/3 of the rent. It's got its own bathroom and everything." "When can I see it?" That's when I realized I needed to think this through more carefully. Aubrey wasn't technically on the lease. She'd been staying over as my guest for 8 months, but legally she had no rights to the apartment. I'd been paying the full rent this whole time while she contributed maybe $200 a month for groceries, if that. I spent my lunch break researching tenant rights online. Turns out in our state, someone needs to be on the lease or have been paying rent with documented proof to have any legal claim to a space. Aubrey had neither. She was essentially a long-term guest who could be asked to leave with reasonable notice. The more I read, the more empowered I felt. I wasn't kicking out a tenant. I was ending a guest arrangement that had become completely one-sided, and bringing in an actual roommate who would pay rent and follow basic adult responsibilities. That was just good financial sense. Tuesday evening, I started documenting everything. Not in an obsessive way, but just keeping track of the facts. I took photos of the spare room, showing how it was currently being used as Aubrey's personal storage space. I saved screenshots of our text conversations where she'd promised to clean up or contribute more, then failed to follow through. I started a simple spreadsheet of household expenses, showing exactly how much I was paying versus her minimal contributions. The key was maintaining the perfect boyfriend facade while I got everything in order. I couldn't let her suspect anything was changing, so I kept cleaning up her messes, kept cooking dinner, kept pretending that her Netflix marathons while I worked were totally normal. "You're being so sweet lately," she said Wednesday night, curled up on the couch while I did dishes. "I love how you take care of everything." I just smiled and kept scrubbing. She had no idea that taking care of everything was about to have a very different meaning. Derek came by Thursday to see the room while Aubrey was at work. He loved it immediately, the space, the location, the fact that it came with a responsible roommate who actually paid bills. "When do you want me to move in?" he asked. "Next weekend. Aubrey's visiting her sister in Portland Friday through Sunday. That gives us the whole weekend to get you settled." "What about her stuff that's in here?" I looked around the room at the piles of clothes, shoes, and random purchases. "I'll box it up and put it in the living room. She can figure out what to do with it." Derek raised an eyebrow. "This is going to be interesting." "She's not on the lease," I said. "Legally, she's been a guest. A guest who doesn't contribute to rent, doesn't help with household responsibilities, and treats the place like her personal dumping ground." The beautiful thing about having a plan was how calm it made me feel. Instead of being reactive to her behavior, I was being proactive about my own life. When she left dishes in the sink, I didn't get frustrated. I just documented it. When she had friends over without asking, I didn't argue. I just took note of the date and time. Friday morning, she kissed me goodbye before heading to Portland. "I'll miss you, baby. Try not to work too hard while I'm gone." "I'll try," I said, already mentally preparing for Derek's move-in. Saturday morning, Derek showed up with his truck and a couple of friends. We spent the day moving his furniture in, setting up the room, and organizing our shared living space like actual adults. We discussed utility splits, cleaning schedules, and house rules. It felt like stepping into a functional adult relationship for the first time in months. "This is going to work out great," Derek said as we finished setting up his desk. "I can't wait to cook actual meals in a kitchen that stays clean." Sunday evening, I sat in our newly organized living room waiting for Aubrey to come home. Derek was in his room giving me space to handle the conversation. I'd moved all her belongings from the spare room into neat boxes in the living room, changed the locks on the spare room door, and prepared for whatever reaction was coming. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't exhausted. I was just ready to enforce boundaries like an adult. Ready to stop being taken advantage of. Ready to live in a space where respect was mutual and responsibilities were shared. The sound of her key in the front door made my heart race, but not with fear, with anticipation. This was the moment everything changed. "Jason, I'm home." Aubrey's voice echoed through the apartment, followed by the sound of her dropping her weekend bag by the door. I heard her footsteps pause in the living room, probably noticing the boxes. "Hey babe, what's all this stuff?" she called out, her voice already carrying that edge of suspicion. I walked out to meet her, keeping my expression neutral. "Those are your things from the spare room. I moved them so Derek could settle in." She stared at me like I'd just spoken in a foreign language. "Derek, what are you talking about?" "Derek's my new roommate. He moved in yesterday. He's paying a third of the rent and utilities." The color drained from her face. "Roommate? What do you mean roommate? This is our place." "Actually, it's my place. You're not on the lease and you don't pay rent. Derek is." That's when she exploded. "Are you fucking kidding me right now? You can't just move someone into our apartment without talking to me." "I can move someone into my apartment," I said calmly. "And I did." She started pacing, her voice getting higher. "This is insane, Jason. You're being completely unreasonable. Where am I supposed to put my stuff? Where am I supposed to sleep?" "That's something you'll need to figure out." The look on her face was pure shock. She wasn't used to me being this direct, this unmovable. For 8 months, I'd been the guy who bent over backwards to avoid conflict, who apologized for asking for basic respect. This version of me was completely foreign to her. "You can't just kick me out. I live here. You've been staying here as my guest. That arrangement isn't working for me anymore." She tried a different approach, her voice softening. "Baby, what's this really about? Are you upset about something? We can talk about this." "We've talked about this multiple times. Nothing changed." "I've been trying." "No, you haven't." The simplicity of that statement seemed to break something in her. She stood there for a moment, probably realizing that her usual manipulation tactics weren't going to work. Then she tried guilt. I can't believe you're doing this to me. After everything we've been through together, I thought you loved me. I did love you. But I also love myself, and I'm not going to live like this anymore. That's when Derek's door opened. He stepped out casually like he belonged there, which he did now. Hey, Aubrey, he said politely. How was Portland? She looked between us like we were conspirators in some elaborate scheme. This is unbelievable. You planned this behind my back. I plan to improve my living situation, I said. Derek's a responsible adult who pays his bills and cleans up after himself. It's going to work out great. She spent the next hour cycling through every manipulation tactic in her playbook. She cried. She yelled. She tried to get me alone to talk this through properly. She accused me of cheating with Derek, which was so ridiculous it almost made me laugh. She threatened to call the police until I reminded her that she had no legal standing here. Fine, she finally said, grabbing her phone. I'm calling my mom. Go ahead. 20 minutes later, her phone rang. I could hear Helen's voice through the speaker, high-pitched and indignant. Aubrey put it on speaker, probably thinking her mom would shame me into changing my mind. Jason, honey, what's this about? Aubrey says you've moved some stranger into your apartment. Hi, Helen. Derek's not a stranger. He's my friend from college. And yes, he's my new roommate. But what about Aubrey? Where's she supposed to live? That's between you and Aubrey to figure out. There was a long pause. Jason, I think you're being very unreasonable. Aubrey loves you and you two have built a life together. Actually, I built a life and Aubrey lived in it rent-free while contributing nothing to household responsibilities. Another pause. Then Helen's voice got sharper. That's not fair. Aubrey works very hard. Aubrey works 25 hours a week. I work 50. I pay all the rent, buy all the groceries, do all the cooking and cleaning. That's not a partnership. That's me supporting an adult child. I could hear Helen trying to formulate a response, but Aubrey grabbed the phone back. Mom, can I come stay with you while we figure this out? Of course, sweetie. Your father and I will come get you. After she hung up, Aubrey turned to me with this look of pure hatred. You're going to regret this. Everyone's going to know what kind of person you really are. What kind of person am I, Aubrey? The kind who throws away a 2-year relationship over housework. The kind who expects basic respect and equal partnership from someone I'm dating. She started throwing her things into bags, muttering about how I was going to be sorry, how she was going to tell everyone what I'd done, how I'd never find someone who loved me like she did. Derek stayed in his room during most of this, but I could hear him moving around, probably setting up his space like a normal person. The contrast was striking, one adult having a complete meltdown over being asked to contribute to a household, another adult quietly organizing his belongings and respecting shared space. By the time Robert and Helen arrived, Aubrey had worked herself into a complete frenzy. She was crying, yelling, and throwing things into boxes like a tornado. Her parents looked uncomfortable but supportive, shooting me disapproving looks while helping her pack. Jason, Robert said as they loaded the last box into their car, I hope you know what you're doing. I do. Aubrey's a good girl. She just needs someone who understands her. She needs someone who will enable her. That's not me anymore. As their car pulled away, I felt this incredible sense of relief wash over me. The apartment was quiet, clean, peaceful. Derek emerged from his room and we ordered pizza, splitting the cost like adults. How do you feel? He asked. Free.